socially conscious, and I became a non-polluter. And she went on and on and on with the spiel. And I said, that sounds wonderful. I said, may I interject something here? She said, sure. I said, sweetie, I said, you are under such control of these entities. If they had wanted you to be a mass murderer, you would have been. I said, what you're missing here, I said, I'm glad that it was a good thing that you ended up going into, but you've missed the whole point. It wasn't your choice. Somebody has decided for you what it's going to be. I said, here's the worst part of it. Are you ready for this? And I said, now we're friends,
Okay.
Sweetie, I said, it's worse than that. I said, not only did you not get the choice, I said, you still don't have a clue. You don't even know what the real alternative was. You honestly don't. I said, you're just like so many other people. I said, when they came for me when I was nearly 4 years old, my first event, I saw the entity standing there, and he had perfectly round black eyes. I'd never seen these guys with these elliptical eyes and the Hollywood version. I'd never seen that, and I know they exist, but I've never seen that. Mine was pure white, about 5 feet tall, and had pure black eyes that were perfectly round. And the people have seen those, especially back in the 50s and 60s, even in in Chile when I was there. Lady was horrified, and I told the story. She said, that's exactly what I saw back in the 60s. And I said, well, I think what it is, I think you and I were seeing the Ford model, and people now are probably looking at the Lexus version. I said, but the fact is, it's just a model. I said, don't be overwhelmed nor be concerned about them. I said, they are not in charge of anything except to keep you confused or confounded with some concept or some other thing that has nothing to do whatsoever with reality. I said, very few people, in my opinion, even have a grasp on what's going on here. I mean, many good people have got little pieces, and then because that's a pretty good piece or something, they see, like, the implants or something, wow, and so they take off, they're implanting us to make us feel better or be better, or they're implanting us because there's some evil intent. What if it was neither one of those? Well, it has to be. No, it doesn't. It has to be what the evidence shows, not what we want it to be or what we think it is, but what is the evidence? That's the issue. For me as an investigator, that's the way this thing has to go down.
Yeah. Well, let me ask them though. With those that believe they are here to help, why don't they institute alien-run healthcare?
Thank you.
What's wrong with that?
Here's the problem I have with this, and I'm pretty blunt about it, and I don't mean to belittle other people who have had experiences different than mine. I don't mean to belittle it. I'm just saying that in my experience, when I was just a child, when the entity finally finished with me, he woke up. See what happened? I'm awake watching him, and I'm stunned seeing him. He realized he's leaving the room. Remember when I was hunting, the same thing, he was leaving?
Right.
I have this propensity to wake up at the wrong time. I woke up when I was in a surgery back in 1981. I woke up in the OR on general anesthesia, opened my eyes, started talking completely coherent, and asked Dr. Albina, my doctor, who's that guy? He was horrified. His face turned red as a beet. He's actually, I said, you mean you subbed the workout to another doctor because you're not qualified to do this particular minimally invasive surgery? And he says, yes. I was questioning him, completely coherent. The anesthesiologist is freaking out completely. I'm not supposed to be. I can't be awake, So finally I just said, I'm going to go back to sleep. And he says, oh, that would be good. I laid back down and went to sleep. They all tell the same story. They were just stunned. But I have this propensity to wake up at the wrong time, and when something's wrong in my consciousness, even though I'm asleep or supposed to be out, I tend to wake up. In the case of the alien, when I was 4 years old, he came very close to me, and only at this point, and your audience needs to know this, I was never paralyzed or anything like this. I mean, I'm sitting up there looking at this guy, and he starts to move toward me. Something in his eyes seemed to move. There was something that seemed to happen there in his eyes, and I didn't know why that was true, but it seemed to be true. And instantly I became paralyzed and with enormous fear. I have never in my life experienced fear like this as a child or anything. I've In fact, never didn't have any fear. I mean, just a kid. I'm just mom and dad and do cookies and milk, and this is the extent of my life. Mm-hmm. And I'm mortified and I'm paralyzed, and he's moving toward me. It's a control system. What he's done is given me a suggestion that you can't move. The problem is I accepted it and didn't know it. You can't be hypnotized without your will. Want to bet? Do you want to bet? That's just not true. It happens all the time. So this entity, whatever he was doing, the thing I learned later was that the fear he gave, that he passed on, is his own.
Wow.
I'm telling you, this stuff is so huge. When you see the evidence, not the hoorah that some folks try to make out of stuff, but the actual evidence, all this stuff makes so much sense. Okay. Next point. This is very important. Your abductees are going to understand this. A lot of them are going to get it. He came right next to me, and when he started coming toward me, I was so frightened, even though I couldn't theoretically move. I pushed my little body so hard against the wall in the bed, trying to get away from this little guy. And I had a little small bed then. It was a little bunk, actually, an army bunk. I mean, we were real poor. And I fell between the wall and the bed. My hands are now and arms are now wedged inside the cover, which I pulled up to protect myself from it.
Of course.
My arms are wedged, and my head bounced off the floor. I think I'm kind of awake now. It's wintertime. The floor is so cold. It's awful. It's an old hardwood floor. And then I think I've gotten away from him. All of a sudden, he lifts up the cover as he's under the bed, looking under the bed at me with those large, huge black eyes and that large bulbous head. Gets it right next to my face, and he begins to change. Now, it's important for your audience to understand this, because I'm going to split hairs with some people here. He did not shapeshift into something else. He changed my consciousness of what he wanted me to think he was. He changed his image of himself into a clown in my consciousness.
Whoa.
Guess what? Many abductees are horrified of clowns. Why did I have a clown phobia? I guess because their phobias are caused by usually immediate, very quick actions, usually even a fast motion, like a spider jumping at you or whatever, and people end up with spider phobias. I do therapeutics, so I've worked in a hypnotherapy clinic for 4 years, working with people, all these different type things. I kind of know something about this. The point is that I kept shaking my little head back and forth. I just was yelling in my head, maybe aloud, I don't know. My parents never woke up. I just was horrified by this. Where's my daddy? Where's he protecting me? And I kept shaking my head back and forth. I kept my consciousness bared on this idea. I wanted to remember him for what he was, not for what he was changing my image. I knew he was changing my consciousness into that of a clown. He wanted me to see him as a clown and remember him as a bad dream. And I wanted to remember him for what he was, because I got news for you. That clown, so to speak, showed up several other times, and I was out in the desert and wide open spaces, and I'm afraid that it was a bad dream, all right, but it didn't have anything to do with dreams as we know them.
Yeah.
It was just a bad experience.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, in the first hour, and we're going to get to this in a minute, you were talking about who they work for. I haven't forgot that. I want to get to that. But right now, we've got a bunch of questions in. And now in this questions section here, Derrel, obviously there are a lot, so probably don't need you to expound too much on them so we can get some of these in.
I'll be brief.
You understand? Okay, very good. And
sure.
Let's just go to this one right here. Do they at any point try to remove our soul?
Wonderful question. There is no indication that is true. And again, I'm going to be brief here. I unfortunately, in being brief, I'm not going to be able to expound. And I could sit here and talk on this for 2 hours at one subject.
Yep.
In the mass abduction, we had 8 people taken in two states and several cities in an event where I orchestrated I implanted some information in a volunteer, a contactee, not an abductee, but a contactee, one of these people that love these guys. And in that event, they were so upset when they found out that we knew information that was, again, if you're an intelligence community, you would respond this way, and I thought they would, and they did. They were very upset, and two entities showed up far higher than the cosmic airheads we always see, the reptiles and the grays and all these other things. Their mid-level bosses showed up, and they contacted these 2 individuals I was involved with, and the 8 people, And they wanted to know two primary questions. These are not all questions, but these are two primary questions asked by two different entities of this mid-level management to these two people, one an engineer, the other one a writer of technical manuals.